Hello and welcome back to Bobbin's Minecraft Let's Play featuring the Hoarder's Delight mod pack by Nicole BW. I'm Bobbin and you're watching episode 10. Yes, we made it to 10 episodes. As you can see, the machines that make the living rock and the living wood are functioning right now. I probably will not leave these up during filming most of the time, but I did want to show that they were working and that they're producing a lot of living rock. They generate quite a bit of lag, so that's one reason not to keep them up and running full time. The living rock and living wood is not actually being used for anything right now. It's being stockpiled. In this episode, I'm actually not going to show much in the way of setting up a new machine. Instead, I'm going to show what I did between episodes that will hopefully alleviate some of the problems with item overflow that I've been having, because it was just a nightmare between episodes dealing with some of that, and I finally broke down and just created a solution that I think will solve nearly all the problems. From now on, my problems will mostly be shortages of items, not too many items. Before we get to that, let's do quests. The nachos that you saw me set up the machine for in the last episode are now 53% done. The cakes that you saw in the last episode are now 20% done. That's all that's going on in the food quests. I'm going to go ahead and turn in the milkshakes. And so let's claim our reward from a single choice here. Let's see what's in the reward bag. It's an epic reward bag with a stack of each of blocks of diamonds, iron, gold, and emerald. Those will come in somewhat handy. There are actually more quests than that. There are 2 more quests, but I'm only going to turn in 1 more today. I think it's going to be this one, which finished between episodes. Pretty color. This is the first one to be completed in the blocks section. And so I did get 100,000 essence brick made and turned in. This one gives magical wood and magmatic dynamos as a reward. So let's go ahead and claim those. The other quest that has not been claimed yet is still smeltery. Those trees are really loud. Alright, further away from the trees. The other progress on quests are nothing in hoarding energy, nothing in hoarding flowers, hoarding blocks. House is at 36%. Abbey is at 75%. And I started blank, and it's at 9%. And the reason I went ahead and started blank is because I was overflowing with sugarcane and I needed to do something with it. In the future, that's not going to be as much of an issue. Right now, this one is not progressing because it's lower priority for sugar than everything else. Hoarding stuff, I don't believe anything that is not done here is still in progress except for diorite walls that are still sitting at 6%. And on Out of Your Mind, nothing is really progressing at all here except for cobblestone, which is at 1% now. We're at 11 million. So what I've dealt with between episodes is, first of all, I set up a farm. You have probably never seen a farm that does this before because it just seems pretty strange to have this going as a farm. This is a grass farm. This farm is specifically intended to produce tall grass. And the reason that I need tall grass is for the flowers portion of the book. Each of these flowers that involve something that's floating, and there are, it looks like 4 of them, will require 100,000 tall grass to make pasture seeds in order to set up the floating aspect of it. In addition, some of these flowers, I believe it's the hopperhawk and the jaded amaranthus, require cut grass in order to make redstone roots, and so I will need cut grass for that. So what I've done here is I have set up a pretty simple farm for cut grass. It's using Mine Factory Reloaded's harvester with shear leaves set to yes to harvest the grass, and then it's creating grass using an autonomous activator, which is simply clicking bone meal on the ground. The autonomous activator, since this is the Botania section, I'm using Botania to do it. This hovering hourglass has 20 pieces of sand in it, so every 20 seconds it goes and plants grass by clicking bone meal on the ground. Alright, getting away from all the noise. I have also set up the next level for my Ender IO farms. These will be used to do magical crops. I haven't entirely decided which ones. Probably this big one on top here will go for silver bell wood. And in the machine area there's nothing new. Now I'm looking at the chocolate sprinkles cake machine. This machine was giving me quite a bit of a problem. And the reason that it was giving me a problem was not the machine itself. The machine works just fine. The problem is that it's got a whole lot of different inputs, and all of these inputs are coming in at different rates. And so the flow regulator prevents them from clogging up the machine, which is fine, but they can still back up into the main inventory. And when that happens, the overflow chest will fill with something, and every machine that starts to get blocked, not all of them necessarily, but it gets to be a problem. By comparison, I've been running a quarry now for maybe 3 or 4 days, and the quarry is not causing any blockages. In fact, I can barely tell that the quarry is running. I have to go and look to see what's going on for quarry processing, go and see that there is new stone coming in, go and check that there are ores being processed. The factory is running smoothly enough with respect to the quarry stuff coming in that you don't even notice the quarry going on. But when this machine was first set up, it first started overflowing sugarcane because it wasn't getting enough cocoa. Then it was overflowing cocoa because it wasn't getting enough flour. Then it was overflowing dye because it wasn't getting enough cocoa again, or something like that. And every time that it got tweaked, something else would be overflowing instead of the item that was doing it before. And it's not really a problem with the machine. The machine works fine. The problem is that the inputs are all coming in at different rates. And so what I ended up doing was something that I had initially sort of wanted to not do with this factory, but I've been doing it a little bit anyway, and I've decided to do it on a much bigger scale, and that is stockpiling materials for future use. Now you noticed when I had all the blueberries coming in that I went ahead and created extra smoothies for the delighted meal and extra juice for the hearty breakfast, and that enabled me to take and clear out and get rid of the blueberry field since I no longer needed it and devote that space to something else. And that's what I'm probably going to be doing more of going forward. So what I've done, and this is sort of the feature of this episode, is I have set up a warehouse to hold various things, and it's right over here. Before, there were a couple of sieves in this area doing sifting of sand and dust. I'm no longer doing that. This area is now devoted to just holding excess items. And the way this works is items come in as overflow. So if an item is not being handled anywhere, let's say cocoa beans, then it's going to come in as overflow, and if there's no place for it, it will end up going in the production overflow chest here, which has some stuff in it right now. I had a problem with corn not getting processed because I think I was short on something and it got resolved, maybe water. This now gives a place for some of those things to go. By setting up one of these caches in here, I now have a place where this thing can overflow to. It overflows specifically at priority -5. And so if nothing is taking it at priority -5, it will come in here. So living wood is accumulating. I've collected 83,000 living wood so far. Good, it's coming here. The trick is, how do you get stuff out of here automatically, because I don't want to actually take and pick up one of these things and cart it over to a new machine in order to get it to come out. And so you also want to feed this stuff back into the network. And so these are actually all set up for in-out. However, if you immediately eject the stuff back into the network as it was before, then you end up setting up a loop where things get ejected into the network and they come back in here. And so things just sort of loop around and it doesn't get things where they want to be, and it's just kind of a mess. So you may notice on this double-headed arrow on the connector that one of the arrows is green, which is actually the default color, and the other one is pink. These caches receive items on the green channel and output them on the pink channel. The channels in Ender IO essentially allow you to set up separate item networks using the same set of conduits. And so what this does is anything that requests living wood will catch it on the green channel if there is some in the green channel, assuming that it's wanting to receive it on the green channel. But that will only get it as it's produced. If instead you connect up to the pink channel, it will pull stuff out of the stockpile to fulfill that request. Now, you might be wondering what happens if it's being produced and I pull it out of the stockpile, but the stockpile is empty. Now it's being produced, but I'm not receiving any. That happens not to be the case because the items will overflow from the green network, come here, and they will be filling the stockpile. The stockpile effectively acts as a huge buffer for these items, so I can hold 640,000 living wood now before it overflows. The other thing that's done on these caches, and this is an important aspect of this, is that they are all locked to that item. So even when the living wood barrel is empty, it will still only accept living wood. That means that I don't have to have a filter on these, so there's no filter on either the in or the out, and the cache will continue to work even if all of the living wood is taken. It's not going to go and say, oh look, all the living wood is taken, there's an empty cache there, let's stick a stone hoe in it. That isn't going to happen as long as I correctly locked all of these inventories. It's possible that I didn't lock one, in which case I will have a problem and I'll have to come over here and fix it, but I've made some effort to get them all locked. It's kind of hard to tell if a cache is locked. There may be a tool to do it or something, but for the most part I haven't found it. You actually have to take and break the block using the wrench and pick it up in your inventory and hold shift, and that will show if it's locked or not. The way you lock it is you shift click on it with an empty hand. Shift right click. So anyway, I'm stockpiling things. There's where the grass is going. Got 44,000 of those. I'm also getting spice leaf now. That's what I did with the line next to the cornfield. I'm going to start making the cola soda. I'm going to set that machine up between episodes. But spice leaf is coming in here. I actually need a whole lot more spice leaf than the cola soda will consume because I also have to have it for things like sausage, for the meat feast pizza and stuff like that. But I will be able to draw off of spice leaf right here in the warehouse rather than having to make it as I go and then balance the input with everything else. So that's going to solve a number of problems and make things just a whole lot nicer to work with. In terms of other stuff that's been going on, really nothing. I've just been accepting the input from the pulverizer, accepting input from the quarry and pulverizing it, dealing with all the stuff that came through. making sure everything's running smoothly. I do remember now what I had the problem with the corn backing up. There is a difficulty with these Quest delivery systems, and this is something to be aware of if you do a similar setup. Sometimes the Quest delivery system will forget what quests it's associated with, even though it hasn't finished. Apparently it's a bug. The thing to do in that case is just to go and reconnect the quest to the quest delivery system by selecting Submit Task in the book and clicking on the QDS as normal. The important thing to keep in mind about that is that actually makes it a very good thing that I've got this setup going here that stops production whenever the QDS does not have a quest associated with it. Because otherwise I would have just wasted a whole lot of materials. It would have come in here to the cyclic assembler, it would have been shipped out through the QDS, and the QDS would have just been acting as a trash can and not giving me any credit for it. The way that it's set up here, the QDS forgets its quest, the machine shuts down. And it does back up in the overflow, but that is something that I can deal with. I'll just see it and fix the problem, and the overflow will clear out. Sometimes quickly, sometimes, like in the case of this corn, a little more gradually. So that is really about all I'm going to show in today's episode. This is Thanksgiving Day for me. It's going to be a little bit of a holiday. I'm not going to spend as much time making episodes. I did want to give you an update as to what was going on and show you the warehousing system, because that is going to be very important going forward. I will more and more, instead of producing things on an as-you-go basis and trying to balance the input, I will just take and send the overflow to the warehouse and get it out later. And it's actually very easy to add more caches to this. They don't immediately start filling up because you take and lock it to the item you want before you ever put it down. And so it works really nicely. I did put the blueberry smoothies, which I still have 100,000 of, and the blueberry juice in here for future use. Whenever I need to do it, I can just draw them straight off the Pink network without having to lug this cache over to an assembly station somewhere. So that's going to be it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. People always like to say like, subscribe, and so on. If you want to do those things, that's great. I'm not actually going to make a habit of going and asking you to do that, but if you do want to do those things, it's very encouraging, so please go ahead. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.